So you're thinking about gardening in Florida, and you may be new to gardening, or you're an expert gardener, but you're just new to Florida. Or you've been gardening for a little bit and you've made a lot of mistakes along the way. Well, whether you garden for butterflies, vegetables, or you just want your yard to look nice, Florida is a great place to garden. But there are a lot of mistakes people make. Actually, there are 4 common types of mistakes people make when gardening in Florida. So today on Wild Florida, we're gonna cover those 4 mistakes when talking about gardening in Florida. Hi, I'm Jacqueline, the Wild Floridian, and welcome to my series on gardening in Florida. Whether you want to know the best plants, the right time of year to grow things, or hey, you need to know more about our soil, this whole series is going to cover that. And if you want to make sure you don't miss the whole thing, go ahead and click on this link right here and you can see the entire playlist. Or wait till the end of this episode and a card will appear in one of these 4 corners. Okay, let's get into it. Let's talk about gardening in Florida and the 4 most common mistakes. So the first mistake all has to do with you've got the wrong strategy and you may not even know it. Some of this information was put in your head from the time you were a kid. No, we're going deep here. We're going way back. It's little things like you remember this phrase? April showers bring May flowers? Except here in Florida, April is the driest month of the year, so no. Or how about you learned about the 4 seasons, whether it was spring brings the flowers, summer's that hot time of year, autumn's when the leaves fall, and then winter, of course, is when the snow comes. And you probably already figured out that snow part definitely doesn't work here. But also, yeah, summer is really hot, but spring is not really the best time for flowers in the year. So all the seasons are different down here. And a lot of people just say it's hot and less hot, which is kind of true, but the reality is that what we're really saying is that you're talking about seasons in a temperate climate. You know, like in New York, in New Jersey, in Michigan, in Chicago, and over in Europe, in England, and France. This is not the same type of climate we have. And so trying to make things work the way that they work here often leads to bad results. And then you're frustrated and you spent a lot of money and then you think that you don't have a green thumb. It's really because you just got the wrong strategy. And a perfect example is growing vegetables. Oftentimes up north, right, they plant the seeds in spring, they start to harvest sometimes in the summer, and then definitely by autumn. Here, you try to plant that in spring and then make it work in autumn during that summer heat and during the summer with the summer heat and hurricanes, oh my gosh, you got problems. So learning about what works best in our climate, which is the subtropics and tropics, is the best strategy. And the second biggest mistake is picking the wrong type of plants. You're trying to make it work and it doesn't want to work, or it works too well. That's right. There's kind of 2 ways this ends up going when you pick the wrong plant, is that you pick a thing that doesn't want to grow here and it dies, or you pick a thing that shouldn't be here and it gets out of control. So what do I mean? Well, it's very nice that up north, beautiful grassy lawns work super, super well. You know, that Kentucky blue, that soft spring grass that you can walk in bare feet and lay on it all day long. Yeah, no, that does not work here. Not even close, which is why we have the grass that we have, which people go, isn't that a weed? I feel like this is a lot like crabgrass up north, because it is. And that's the reason is because grass is like that. Don't want to live here. It takes a lot of work, a lot of maintenance, and a lot of money to make plants that are from different climates to get them to work here. So instead of having a grassy lawn, yeah, you can put St. Augustine grass in, but you could do some other really cool ground covers like sunshine mimosa instead. The other thing when picking the wrong type of plant is you may have picked up that plant from a big box store and put it in your office, in your bedroom, or in your living room, and you thought, wow, it grew so well. This lovely house plant, this snake stump, this taro plant, I'm gonna go put it in my yard. Little did you know, this is an invasive plant that is now going to take over. And for the next month, years, possibly, you are gonna be beating back this plant trying to get it back under control. Because usually those plants that do really well as house plants, yeah, they're from the tropics and they do really well here. Too well, actually. So it's all about figuring out the right type of plants, whether it's native plants or Florida friendly plants, that's what you want to pick. And the third mistake is got to be the wrong time of year. See, if you're still thinking about spring, summer, autumn, and winter the way that you would if you lived in the north, well, you're gonna find it really challenging. There are plants that you can plant all year round, but they're just not gonna typically follow what you think. So One of the biggest examples I have for this is vegetable gardening. So usually in the north, they plant in the spring, they harvest in the summer and in the fall, and they can even plant some stuff in the summer. But for us here in Florida, actually some of the best times of year to go and plant and then harvest is fall and winter for planting, and then spring and early summer for our harvest. So for example, think about strawberries, which is a temperate climate plant, and we talked about you want to avoid things that don't want to work here, but sometimes you take advantage of the season to make them work. So while those who live in England or in Maine may plant these in the spring and summer, here in Florida we plant them in the winter. Actually, so much so, we have a strawberry festival which comes out in February. So while the north is in their deepest freezes, Florida becomes the highest producer for berries in the United States. So consider that the seasons are a little different here and that you may be planting at the wrong time of year. And the fourth mistake that I see a lot of gardeners dealing with is it has to do with the soil. See, our soil is unique. It's a lot of sand with a dash of dirt in it. So that can be really challenging, but there's two ways you can deal with that. One is you can try to work with the soil. There are a lot of plants, not even just ones that are native, that love the soil. What plant do you say? Well, did you ever realize that oranges are not native to Florida? But yet everyone thinks of oranges when they think of Florida. It's on our license plates, it's all over the place. You would think it's been here. Well, it's been here a long time, for 500 years actually. And the reason is that when the first Spaniards came here around 1500, they started planting them and the oranges did great. So yeah, some plants love this soil. Now, not every plant that you're gonna wanna have in your yard is gonna love this soil, so you might have to amend it. And of course, use things like compost and a lot of other things, which we'll dive into a lot deeper in another episode. But I wanna give you guys the heads up, because if you're part of any gardening groups, at some point you may ask the question, what's the best fertilizer for amending my soil? Or maybe what's the best pesticide for killing a weed? And you may be taken off guard by the sheer amount of passion you'll get from a lot of gardeners about how dare you not use organic methods, and kicking people out of Facebook groups, and a lot of feelings. I want to prep you for this because if you're new to gardening in Florida, or you're just really new to Florida, you may not understand where all this passion comes from. And it specifically comes from what's happening in our ecosystem, red tide. Red tide is a microorganism that is growing out in our waterways that is choking and killing a lot of fish and even dolphins, turtles, manatees. It's really, really bad. It's having a huge impact on our wildlife, and it's also having a big impact on our economy. People are getting headaches, allergies, asthma attacks. They're actually selling their property, beachfront property, on some of the best beaches in the world to get away from red tide. It's causing travelers to not want to visit certain areas of our coast. It's a big problem. And one of the biggest reasons we're having this problem has to do with runoff of pesticides and fertilizers coming out of our yards and the agricultural parts of our state. So there are certain times of years, and we'll go into this a little bit deeper, that you should be adding these to your yard, and times of year you should not. So you do need to learn more about that, and we'll cover that in one of our later episodes. And now that you know what you shouldn't do, let's talk more about what you should do. Let's talk about the best plants for Florida. And to make sure you don't miss that, go ahead and like, subscribe, and ring that bell for notification. New videos each week, Tuesday and Friday, and sometimes a bonus one on Sunday. And while you wait for the next episode, go ahead and check this out, or this, or YouTube thinks you'll like this. Okay, I'll see you soon. Bye.